I don't subscribe to Oozaloo, mostly because I don't have enough Adderall on hand to sit through his videos, but every once in a blue moon I like to pop on over to the channel and just see what he's been ranting about lately. And so it was today, and much to my glee and surprise when I saw he had uploaded a video with the word docs in the title. This is very exciting to me because there is autism and then there is weapons grade autism, and you know when Oozaloo starts talking about doxing, you're in for some serious weapons grade autism. Now, I'm not going to go through the whole video bit by bit as it is a 22-minute cure for insomnia, but of course you can find the link in the description in case you've never had the unique pleasure of listening to somebody pedantically debate themselves about the definition of a word for 22 minutes straight. Feel free to check it out. Since I am cutting out a large portion of his video, I'll give you a little bit of context as to what we're talking about. For those who don't know, Oozaloo, whose real name is Tom Gebbett, is an autistic YouTuber from England who has spent 90% of his time on the platform trying to take down Atheism is Unstoppable, real name Devin Tracy. Those of us who were around last year remember well the year of the docs, and the many debates and ponage videos that were made as part of that controversy, much of which centered around the definition of the word dox itself and was essentially split into two camps. People like me who wanted to use the strict definition of the term, which would of course exonerate Devin Tracy from these ludicrous accusations, and people like Oozaloo and Spinosaurus kin who wanted to broaden the definition of the term to the point where just saying somebody's name would be considered doxing, so as to bolster their autistic witch hunt. Oozaloo has now returned to make a video on this long dead subject due to the fact that he has been accused of ignoring Sargon of Akkad, doxing some fat feminist under Oozaloo's broad definition of the term. And so this video is 22 minutes of Oozaloo trying to navigate the invisible laser alarm minefield of coming up with a new definition of dox, which will still allow his criticisms of Devin Tracy to be valid while exonerating Sargon of Akkad, real name Carl Benjamin, so as to avoid living by his own proclaimed principles, which is to autistically rally against and disavow and disown anybody who commits the notorious act known as doxing. Why I felt compelled to respond is because Oozaloo blatantly contradicts himself at multiple points in his video, yet in spite of that, his video is inexplicably received with virtually universal praise. Sorry, did I say it's inexplicable? There's actually a really simple explanation. These people are stupid. He's stupid, and his audience is stupid, and I'm here to explain to you why.
On all levels except physical, I am a wolf.
I was angry at my mother, so I started saying, Mom! 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 Why did you do that to me?
What I'm about to say is irrefutably true. Definitions given by dictionaries, encyclopedias, and other similar sources are not definitive. They do not state what a word means, they only state how it's commonly used in the relevant contexts. Treating a definition as authoritative, arguing from it as if you can show anything objective, is flawed. Definitions are best guesses, estimations, and should be used as general guides, never as authorities.
This is kind of embarrassing. I mean, yeah, Oozaloo is correct in saying that the dictionary uses common usage to define words. However, it's worth noting that it takes a while for the dictionary to catch up with common usage. Point being, there's only really two valid ways to define a word, which is by what it says in the dictionary or by the way it's commonly used. For example, if somebody says black people can't be racist, I know that the definition they're using of racism is power and privilege, and I know this because I have heard it used this way commonly. And if its usage in that way continues to spread, it's only a matter of time until that makes its way into the dictionary. Point being, there's no other way to define a word. Your intent doesn't matter. I can point to a slice of pizza on a table and say, hey, pass me that rock, and then argue all day and all night that within the context I've used it, the piece of pizza is clearly a rock because that's my intended meaning, but I am wrong and I will always be wrong because we all know that a fucking slice of pizza isn't a rock. If all of this strikes you as insufferably tedious and anally retentive, welcome to the wonderful world of arguing with Spurgs. Shortly after this in the video, Uzulu attempts to muddy the waters. I'll spare you listening to him, but essentially he brings up things like legal definitions and academic definitions, which is completely pointless to even talk about because in those contexts the words are clearly defined. Nobody has to argue over what the legal definition of a word is because it is defined and that definition is definitive. And absolutely nobody out here is going to mistake shitposting on Twitter for a legal or academic context. As I've already said, all that is really happening in this entire video is that Uzulu is trying to retcon his definition because his definition is now being used against him and he doesn't like it anymore. And so he has to engage in weapons grade sophistry because his new argument is backed up neither by the dictionary nor common usage. Now we'll take a look at what Uzulu wants the new definition of doxing to be.
My proposed definition. Dox. Publicly providing identifying information about a person which is not widely known without their consent. Identifying information in this context. Any information which either connects two identities or adds detail to an identity. Widely known in this context. Known by a majority of those likely to see and understand the information. Consent in this context. The identified person recently explicitly stating consent or recently presenting or linking to the identifying information in such a way that is publicly viewable.
You gotta love the watermark behind the definition. Like, this is my IP, everyone. This is my OC. Don't steal without credit. Anyway, for those who missed the original saga, Tom Gebbett, aka Uzulu, had a website which displayed his name, and so Devin Tracy was able to figure out his name due to the fact that it was publicly available on his website, which is why Uzulu now has to come up with this contortionist version of doxing to say that he was still doxed because even though his name was publicly available, it wasn't widely known, which is fucking stupid because, first of all, widely known is a pretty subjective, vague terminology. Later on in the video, he uses this criteria to refer to using Sargon of Akkad's first name as quote-unquote physicalizing, presumably based on the criteria that that is not widely known.
Calling Tim by his first name doesn't fall into this category because he's currently using Tim Blake as his Twitter display name. But a good example is when Tim and the Cuck Brigade constantly refer to Sargon by his real name, and also often refer to his town. Not doxing as he's released those publicly, but definitely a petty tactic which tells us far more about them than the person they are physicalizing.
Which I would argue is a pretty fucking pathetic position. In fact, in one of my recent videos, I made a joke about a certain classical liberal named Carl, and most people watching got the joke because that is widely known information, at least amongst my audience. But more importantly, did you notice the part where he says that because Carl made his name publicly available, it's not technically doxing to call him Carl? He then turns around later in the video and says that his original criticisms of AIU, aka Devin Tracy, still stand because Devin's actions still fall under this new definition of doxing, even though he just fucking said it doesn't because Tom Gebbett made his name publicly available. This fucking moron doesn't even understand his own argument.
AIU. I'm not going to go into detail on the context with AIU here, because all that deserves to remain in the past. What I will say is that my past use of the flawed definition can be replaced by my use of my proposed definition, and no other changes are needed as far as I know.
But it gets even more pathetic. Listen to this.
I believe that what Sargon did was not doxing, and I have argued that with several people. But how could I believe that? He released someone's appearance, town, and workplace to the internet. So what kind of biased monster would take up this obviously untenable position? She was in a publicly accessible place with Sargon. Everyone at that venue was aware of her information, and anyone from anywhere in the world could have attended it. They could even have taken a photograph with her in the frame, taken it home and shown others. We would not, I hope, consider that to be doxing.
These mental gymnastics are so pathetic that it literally beggars belief. I mean, I'm not completely unsure that he isn't just trolling me at this point, because nobody could actually be this pathetically stupid, right? Oozaloo has a website using the name Oozaloo. It's like fucking oozaloo.net or some shit, that anybody could stick his handle into Google and go and find his name, right? That's publicly available, but he still wants to claim that by doing that, Devin Tracy doxed him because it wasn't quote unquote widely known. Now, contrast that with the idea that what Sargon did isn't doxing because anybody could have gone to the shop and taken a picture of this fat fucking feminist. Do I really need to explain to anybody how fucking pathetic it is to try and draw some delineation between the fact that anybody could walk into a shop in England and take a picture of a woman versus anybody can go search a guy's fucking handle on the internet and find his real name? Obviously, the internet is more accessible to the average person than walking into some particular shop in England, and the notion that this woman's appearance and place of work and city were widely known to Sargon's audience is laughable. This is absolutely disgustingly pathetic. And like I pointed out at the beginning, people eat this shit up. People like it. People validate him. People pat him on the back for putting this out into the universe. I don't fucking understand the world sometimes, but I guess I don't know exactly what I should expect from people who think that Keck jokes are the height of humor. You're a joke, Oozaloo. You're transparent. You're stupid. And I hope the validation you get from the legion of moronic subscribers helps you sleep at night, you fucking faggot. For the record, if anybody wants to know what I think about any of this, no, I'm not saying Sargon doxed. I don't think any of this shit is doxing. You want a useful working definition of doxing? I've said it before and I'll say it again. It is when you go to great lengths to violate somebody's privacy. For example, you use social engineering or hacking, or even a good old-fashioned physical breaking and entering, something along those lines to obtain information that would otherwise be private. Putting your name on your website attached to your handle and then having somebody else search that and then say it in a YouTube video is not being doxed, you little victim card playing bitch boy. Neither is having your picture taken in public, okay? None of that shit is doxing. If somebody phones up your ISP, pretends to be you, and socially engineers their way into getting your password, and then they gain access to your account, and then they find out your address, and then they publish that address on the internet, that would be doxing. Do you understand? None of this shit is doxing that these people whine and fucking cry about. And again, as I've said before, they just want to dilute the word to be meaningless in the same way that feminists and SJWs have diluted words like rape and racism. For everyone who gave that video a thumbs up, I'm embarrassed for you, and I'm embarrassed for humanity. As for the rest of you, thanks for watching. I know it's kind of a waste of everyone's time to respond to retards like Tom, but I can't help it. It's just kind of fun to punch down once in a while. Peace out.
Sometimes people will disagree with you about when to apply certain principles. That does not mean that they have abandoned those principles.